This is part 2 of your novel study on The Alchemist by Paul Coelho and covers pages 53 to 90. Part 2, the beginning, the boy has been working for the crystal merchant for almost a month, and it will end with the sighting of the oasis. And Santiago states just before that, because people become fascinated with pictures and words and wind up forgetting the language of the world. We'll begin with a summary and then look at some quotes again, and then a little bit on character development as a means to understand this part of the text. So Santiago is working for the crystal merchant and knows it will take time to raise the money to buy a flock of sheep again. This event shows how after a setback we often become more realistic about our goals, but we often are still somewhat defeated, for we're only looking to return to what we had. The work within the crystal shop, however, reflects how every step can become transformative. It also speaks about how patience, fortitude, and enthusiasm are needed in even the smallest actions we take in life. We can find pleasure in work, in service, and in our pursuit to improve life for ourselves and others. Moreover, we can be content to live in the moment, understanding that with time comes opportunity. Santiago wants to build a display case to place outside the shop and attract more customers, but the crystal merchant fears people will bump into it and break the crystal. This event shows how we still need to seek out opportunity to expand our lives through new approaches and new perspectives to enable us to grow and to realize our potential. The crystal merchant knows that his business has been good and asks why Santiago wants even more. Santiago says because we have to respond to omens. He thinks of Melchizedek's reference to beginner's luck. The crystal merchant is a character foil and represents the opposite attitude of Santiago. He reflects hesitancy, fear, and disbelief that stymie progress. He represents the prevalent attitude of the people who often want to just exist and maintain life as it is and not push to realize their full potential or to explore new ideas or methods. Santiago's character, on the other hand, points out that in life, if we see new ways or ideas, we need to explore them. Another element of summary, this shopkeeper speaks of his earlier dream of making the pilgrimage to Mecca, but he says, "It is the thought of Mecca that keeps me alive, and I'm afraid that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living." This is another reflection on how many live out their lives, putting up roadblocks and excuses for not achieving their personal legends. It also reflects that as the years pass, often our enthusiasm to realize our dreams diminishes. The shopkeeper's statement also shows how many feel about realizing their initial dreams. They either feel that life would be over or that life after would be disappointing if the dream is realized. They can't envision that new dreams could be set up or realized too. 2 months have passed and Santiago now is able to speak Arabic and estimates he will have enough money to buy 2 flocks of sheep when he leaves. This realization by Santiago is a recognition of all that we can absorb and learn as we are on our journey in life to realize our dreams. We often aren't aware of all that we learn and the future use those elements might have in our lives. For instance, Santiago would not have gotten very far in his conversations with Fatima or with the Arab alchemist without knowing Arabic. He then proposes to the shopkeeper that selling customers tea in the crystal glasses would be a means to attract more sales. The shopkeeper states that every blessing ignored is a curse. This realization by Santiago is a recognition of all that we absorb and learn as we are on our journey in life to realize our dreams. Paul Coelho reinforces that we need to learn and expand in place. The willingness to expand our horizons and seek out new opportunities will help us grow and realize our dreams, even if the dream is not on our immediate horizon. The shopkeeper states that every blessing ignored is a curse. He realizes his mistakes but feels like it is too late for him. After 11 months of working in Africa, Santiago recognizes he has enough money to fill his dream, as does the shopkeeper. The recognition that he has enough funds, as does the shopkeeper, to realize their individual dreams suggests that as we build towards our dream, we are helping others to realize their dreams too. This helps develop the idea of the interconnectedness of the world. Whether others seek their dreams are their decisions, though. As he packs, Ermin and Thuman drop out of his pouch, and he again is reminded of Melchizedek's words in the language of the world, the language of enthusiasm and accomplishment. When you want something, the whole world conspires to help you achieve it. The old king's words come back to Santiago as inspiration and a reminder to continue his pursuit of his dreams. We need to realize that promise and hope is what inspires us, and we need to remember that the stones represent choices. We need to see that we always have choices within our lives, even if the choice might bring failure, it is still invaluable as a learning tool. This next event points out how we comfort ourselves with falling back into the known. He says he recognizes that he knows all about sheep, but not the desert, and he is 2 hours closer to seeing the pyramids, and with enthusiasm, he sets his sights on realizing his dream. Our next step into happiness is to push forward into the unknown and learn something new. Santiago thinks initially happiness is in returning to Spain, but then understands that what excites him is learning about the unknown, the deserts, and the pyramids. When he reaches the site of the departing caravan, Santiago meets up with a European alchemist in search of a more knowledgeable Arabic alchemist. However, the Englishman ignores Santiago until Santiago pulls out Urim and Thummim and recognizes them as an omen. This next event points out how we comfort ourselves with falling back into the known, but our happiness is the reward we feel when we push forward into the unknown and learn something new. The introduction of the English alchemist reflects on the differences between the two styles of pursuing personal legends, or many Europeans feel it is through the single pursuit of knowledge as written down in books. Santiago and the Arab alchemist suggest that the pursuit is more holistic and intrinsic, much like First Nations' understanding of life, which incorporates learning from Mother Earth and the elders. The Englishman wants little to do with Santiago and dismisses the interconnectedness of the world, while Santiago speaks of struggling with the text and pulls out the stones. It is then that the Englishman takes in the possibility of Santiago being a good omen for the trip. The Englishman is open to new ideas. He just has gotten lost in the books, and what we're seeing emerge as we go on through the story is that Santiago's holistic approach, his welcoming of all sources of knowledge, is a little bit more advanced than the Englishman's. The Englishman suggests that there are no coincidences as they head out to the desert, and after the leader of the caravan asks the almost 200 people in the caravan to swear by their God to follow his orders. This event is an exploration of the idea of trusting in those who are masters in their fields and understanding that we can't know all, so we need to rely on those who demonstrate expertise in their chosen fields, much like Santiago places his trust in the caravan leader. It also suggests that as individuals, if we see things as coincidence, we often dismiss the omen and don't take the opportunity to pursue the omen. The number in the caravan suggests the interconnectedness of our journey in life. Many will fail or benefit from each other following the caravan's leaders' orders. Just like today, we benefit in following experted by health administrators and know that the safety of our lives depends on others following that advice too. The camel driver reflects on feeling small within the desert, and Santiago feels he is learning intuitively about the past and the present of all people, the universal language, where the histories of all people are connected. This idea reflects the need for humility in our journey. It is through humility that we learn to be quiet and observant, and through the quiet observation we can see more and learn more. We also don't see ourselves as center stage, but as a part of a whole, which will also help us to foster connections. This recognition that one's experiences are likely to have been experienced by others is both a comfort and a guiding force to building a greater sense of generosity and empathy within ourselves for others. The boy throws his book away after he learns to connect with his camel and watches the desert and hears the wind more. This incident reflects the need to live in the moment and to take in all that the moment gives us. As well, again, it reinforces the need to form connections within our lives beyond just knowledge. Today, many will state information or knowledge is power, but Paulo Coelho suggests that there is more to life than just a simple accumulation of knowledge to be used to gain preeminence or power. He suggests that knowledge needs to be balanced with an understanding of the well-being of all Earth's inhabitants. In A Walk at Night, Santiago states how the guides note the desert signs, and the Englishman speaks of alchemy's focus on transformation because all are connected to the soul of the earth. Both seek each other's means of study. Santiago's study of the books on alchemy show how he applies the study to life. He, however, gets lost in the ancient alchemist studies. This suggests the need to look at elements in life that have transformative potential, and it suggests that the ancient study of alchemy realized their objectives because they followed what made them happy, not the transformation of metals into gold or potions into the elixir of life. The greatness is not to be found in pursuit of wealth, but in an interconnected pursuit of our own personal legend and happiness. Santiago suggests that the pursuit of the philosopher's stone and the elixir of life is so simple it could be written on an emerald. Santiago's recognition is that the elixir of life and the philosopher's stone are all about pursuing one's happiness. The oasis is cited, but Santiago thinks about the desert and is content. The Arab alchemist thinks that God created the desert so humanity could appreciate the date trees. This event suggests that Santiago lives in the moment, and living in the moment brings a sense of happiness and contentment. It also suggests that we understand our world through contrasts. We don't understand happiness unless we have known sorrow, and we don't value the date trees until we understand they signal water, food, and respite. 3 things hard to find in the midst of the desert. He suggests this knowledge is available to all through God's creations, but we rely on words and pictures instead. If we choose to look at our natural environment and not on humanity's knowledge, we see true wisdom and the valuable secrets of the world. The alchemist doesn't understand how humanity can ignore the wisdom of the earth and instead look to humanity's fallible knowledge. Let's take a look at some of the quotes that we're finding in this section. The quotes through pages 53 to 90 reveal Santiago's growth after his initial setback of losing the money. Although the loss of the money is initially seen as a failure and a testament to his lack of intelligence, he slowly, through his work at the crystal shop, begins to regain his confidence and the means to carry on with his journey. Paul Coelho suggests that sometimes this is not easily or quickly done, for Santiago takes a little over 11 months to rebuild. The first set of quotes show how Santiago returns to openness. He sees the omens and the moments of beginner's luck, and he is able to capitalize and move his plan forward. We too need to seize opportunities to expand our horizons. There is a need to know what we want in life. Hassan Minhaj learned it wasn't basketball but the comedy stage and recognition that he valued. We too might set our sights on one goal, but along the way realize what we truly want in life. In the Freedom Riders, Aaron had to teach the students how to reach for goals they had always been discouraged from attaining. With possibility comes enthusiasm. So too with Santiago. Once he sees there is still potential to make his way in the world, he responds with enthusiasm, and the world responds to that enthusiasm too. In this second set of quotes, it illustrates how much of our enthusiasm is hinged on our perspective. If we see the world conspiring to help realize our goal and we view the cup as half full and not half empty, we can be confident in moving forward and making the necessary decisions within our lives. However, just like Santiago, we need to take life lessons forward and not be naive about the hurdles we still will face and the further work needed once a decision is made. Finally, in our step forward, we need to see ourselves as just one part in a vast world of moving parts. In our enthusiasm and focus, we often lose sight of living in the moment and appreciating what it offers. The third set of quotes talk about transformation and change, and that's represented by the wind in the book. In that destabilizing change, Paul Coelho suggests a need to stay sensitive and connected to the language of the world and its interconnectedness. If we stay focused on the idea that we can achieve what we need and want, we can live without fear, and fear is dismissed when we place our faith in a creator. Finally, this set of quotes really speak about what wisdom we can take from our environment. To live in the moment, appreciate all that we have in the moment, and to understand the natural rhythm of change and appreciate all that that change can bring. Finally, our environment teaches us one of the greatest lessons through contrast, like the desert and the oasis. To appreciate life by knowing death or barrenness. To teach us joy by knowing sorrow, and to appreciate abundance by knowing deprivation. Lastly, let's look at Santiago's character. In the initial stage, he shows a young man's excitement and naivety about life. In the second stage, he is maturing and realizing that dreams take work and commitment. He also learns to again open himself to possibilities, but this time he is watching the omens more and planning his steps out more thoughtfully. So let's take a look at some of the words we might use to describe him in this stage. Number 1, resourceful. He develops new ideas to bring in more money to the shop, a display shelf down on the busy street, the selling of tea in the crystal glasses. He's patient and committed, recognizes that change doesn't occur overnight, and that he will have to be steadfast and patient to realize his goal. He's decisive. He recognizes the omens and acts on them. He recognizes, for instance, when it's time to move on and leave the shopkeeper behind. Another element, he's courageous. He first thinks to go home, but then he realizes that this is an opportunity to see the pyramids that may never be available again, and then he steps out into that decision. He's curious. He wants to learn more about the desert. He's attentive and observant. He watches the desert, listens to the camel driver and the caravan leader, seeks to take in as much of the experience as possible. And finally, he's sensitive and open. He hears the language of the world and begins to listen to the omens and see the signs of the desert. He's confident. He sees himself as the adventurer and not the victim now. He's assured that the old king's wisdom is behind him and help him to realize his goal, his legend. He's content, for he realizes he's living in the moment, learning and pursuing his dream, and there is a sense of peace in the striving for that dream. In this second stage of development, which would be your second body paragraph in your essay, Santiago is developing some maturity. He is becoming more cautious and attentive in his planning and his actions. This is illustrated by the way he watches and listens to the customers and develops plans. Through his ability to listen to the language of the world, he begins to rebuild his confidence and is ready to face the rest of his journey and the obstacles he now anticipates will be ahead of him. He has learned to be patient with himself and really move forward in his life as well. I hope this helps you understand a little bit more about these pages, and we'll move on to the third stage in the subsequent video.